Alright, we're testing it out. Testing it, everything out. Nice, nice, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Oh, there we go. Bit more gain on a microphone. Got it. Bit more gain on a microphone. Got it. Let's see. How about now? We're testing, testing, testing. Let's see. How about now? We're testing, testing, testing. Let's see. How about now? Let's just pause the freaking music. We're testing, testing, testing. Let's see. How about now? Let's just pause the freaking music. We're testing, testing. That was wild, guys. That was wild. That was wild, guys. That was wild. Let's try now. How to get YouTube to play with stream music without looping. That's fine. Google, solve this for me. Right click on the video on the desktop, select loop. No, I don't want to loop. Sounds great in my ears, but I want you guys to hear it too. Royalty free. It's fantastic. That's fine. I'll just let me go ahead and mute myself. There we go. You shouldn't be able to hear it now. Hopefully there's no looping. I had to mute myself on the live stream. Awesome, guys. Well, I am stoked to give this a try. I'm gonna go ahead and shut down my music in the background so I don't get distracted. Okay, everybody. We'll be starting probably in the next, let's say 5 minutes. So 19:05 is a good time. With YouTube Premium, you can watch ad-free. Alright, I got Mike all the way up. Let me know in chat if you still hear looping or anything like that. Sounds good now? Awesome. Glad to hear. I'm very excited for this class. Been working on it for a little bit. This is a new class that I want to teach for in person as well. I don't know how to do it in person just yet, but I know that it works really well digitally. Let me double check that I have this posted on my Instagram story. Let's see here. Just trying to get as many people out here. We're trying to get, if you're not subscribed to Squid Age Community, highly recommend you do. Let's see. Oh my gosh, come on. Got it pulled up on my phone. If you guys don't know what Squid Age Community is, it's like an offshoot of Squidmar. Basically, it's attached to the Squidmar Discord. From what I can tell, it is. I'm looping. Oh, I think I was looping because it was on my phone. My phone was next to my. But yeah, if you're not a part of the Squidmar Discord, go give it. Go hop into that Discord. I also highly recommend. I got through it because of I was actually subscribed to their ML and Lucas's what do you call it? You guys know what I'm saying? I was subscribed to their I can't remember what it's called. I actually have it in my bookmarks here. Patreon. Oh my gosh, that was difficult. So I was subscribed to their Patreon. Yep, Martin, you're right. Subscribe to their Patreon. Got access to their Discord. I'm not sure if you can gain access outside of the Patreon, but you do not have to be remaining Patreon member if you don't want to. If you do, highly recommend it. Some of those videos in there are fantastic, and you always get to see stuff ahead of time before it drops in YouTube, or at least that was my experience. So once you're subscribed via Patreon, then you can hop into the Squidmar Discord. And once you're in the Discord, yeah, the lowest tier, it's only a few bucks. But once you're in there, you get access to the Discord. Once you're in the Discord, then you get access to things like SquidCon, but also the admins in the Squidmar Discord are pretty stinking cool. We got a few in chat right now. Nonetheless, lovely community. ML comes in every now and then and drops some news. You also get updates whenever the videos come out, which is awesome to see. You don't have to rely on YouTube necessarily to do that. Discord will do it for you. But yeah, again, this is just an offshoot of Squidmar. Highly recommend you guys join their Discord. And if you aren't already, subscribe to Squid Age Community, so that way you guys know whenever this digital convention goes on. And I love that it's a digital convention. Like, I know I got a couple buddies in here from the EU, maybe even one from Australia. If they're awake, who knows? But I know I got a lot of Americans that are coming in, and I myself am an American. So I just think it's really cool to be able to bridge that gap of oceans to be able to provide miniature painting content. It's pretty rad, pretty cool. Alrighty, it is 6 minutes past the hour. I'll give it one more minute, and then we'll get moving and grooving. And let me know in chat if you guys can hear me, if I need to turn up my mic, if I need to put the mic away, whatever you need me to do, I'll gladly do it. So, but we're really going to be talking about story and ambience today. The SquidCon community managers reached out to me beforehand, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to come teach a class." And I said, "I think that would be a really great time." They were like, "How do you feel about story and ambience?" And I was like, "Even better." Am I a little quiet? Okay. I have the gain all the way up, so check your YouTube audio just in case, because it could be your actual YouTube audio that Oh, it's Christy Van Patten. I saw that you're teaching at Pigment. I'm so excited. We're going to be teaching buddies at Pigment in Austin. It's going to be really fun. Okay. I think we've waited enough time. Let's move and groove. So chat is about 10 seconds behind, so I want you guys to know that. I think that's also just a note for me as well. But 10 seconds behind a lot of this class. Go to the next slide. We're going to be talking about story and ambience. Sometimes this class is going to be a little bit like question and answer. towards the end of it, especially. So we'll give at least maybe 2, 3 minutes for answers to flood into the chat, and then we can move on to the next slide. But the first portion about this entire class is mainly theory and going over how you can really bring your stories to life. We aren't going to be painting anything today. I don't have the actual like camera setup that I really want in order to do that just yet. But hopefully next year, if I'm invited to teach again, we'll do a little bit something a little bit more hands-on, and maybe even have a company sponsor some miniatures, so that way you can purchase the miniature directly from the company, and then work on it in the class, something like that. I think that'd be kind of fun. Okay, so story and ambience. These things, this entire class is something I am very, very cognizant of whenever I sit at the table. Um, Art is meant to, in my personal opinion, this is subject to everyone, but art, in my personal opinion, is meant to tell a story. It's meant to instigate a feeling of some kind. That feeling could be, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a modern museum before, and you go to the New Age section, and it's a milk carton with a circle cut out of it, and that's being displayed in a museum. That frustrates the ever-loving crap out of me. But guess what? It did its job. It is provoking an emotion. Whether I like it or not, it's doing its job. And so story and ambience kind of ties into that, is being able to provoke an emotion. And so I know that a lot of army painters maybe right now are like, well, I don't really care about creating a story and ambience. I don't really want to provoke an emotion. I would push back on that and say, well, whenever you're sitting or standing at a table and your opponent goes, oh my God, those things are so cool, you're just provoked an emotion. And so I don't know about you. I've painted a few armies in my time, especially I'm a Middle Earth player. So sitting at the table, and I've got an entire orc army that's like maybe standing in lava or something like that, and I've got Sauron who's standing above this huge like rock of lava with elf memorabilia strewn about him. And so every time I sit down at the table and my opponent goes, "Oh, I have to compete against that today," I could be really bad at the game, but my army's kind of scary looking. So it's a little bit of a mental game whenever you're starting your tabletop roll dice plays. Okay, story and ambience with Sam Kress. If you're not following me on Instagram, my name is Miniature Muses. I'd love to be mutuals with you, so that way you can follow along. Okay, storytelling. These are a few questions I like to ask myself whenever I start on a brand new project. Who is the character? What are they doing? What world are they in? And is it day or night that they're interacting in this world? So the first question, who is the character? Oftentimes, whenever you're picking up a sculpt, for example, like a Batman sculpt, well, the character's already answered for you, you know? It's already there in the sculpt. It's Batman. But it doesn't necessarily mean I have to paint this specific Batman. I'm not sure if you guys have seen DC's new Absolute Batman. It is absolutely wild. It's pretty crazy. And so even though the sculpts may look like Batman from the 50s, you can potentially change this story to be more like Batman Absolute. So yes, the character is Batman, but I can really change it into any style of Batman I want. Next up is, what are they doing? Oftentimes when we see a lot of diorama pieces or storytelling pieces, there's some competitions out there that have a storytelling section of their competition. But more often than not is, what are they doing? And in dioramas, you can really paint that picture even more, of being able to see like, oh, they're coming onto this tree real quick, or they're climbing this tree, or maybe it's a bust. What story can you tell with a bust? Maybe they're opening up doors, coming into a brand new day. There's some pieces I've seen where there's that thin line of light that passes right down the middle of the bust, and even though the bust is just sculpted to be head and shoulders, we now see that they are peeking through maybe a closet or a door, something along those lines, really creating that story even with a simplistic sculpt. What world are they in? Oh, this one's really fun. This one, you can really change the aspect of what colors you use, what ambience that you have, depending on what world they are in. For example, if you wanted to work with a lot of GW models that are the Feywild, Sylvaneth, I think this is what they're called, you can really paint them to be greens, oranges, something that's a little bit built inside of a forest or a more of a Feywild style actual experience. You also have people like the Necrons. What world are they in? Well, they're probably in some really mechanical worlds. They probably have like green skies or deep, deep blacks in their actual environment that's around them. So, discovering what world are they in can really also bring about more of this storytelling. Is it day or night? That's a simplified question. I made it pretty simple. You can, if you really wanted to, you can get into dusk, you can get into dawn, you can say, hey, this is 2 p.m. light. I'm not sure if that will read that well, that small variances of time, but we can definitely understand what is the difference between day and what is the difference between night, especially whenever we start talking about color, just a small bit of color theory. Okay, so 4 questions. These are just 4 simple questions. There are tons more questions you can throw into your storytelling, but these 4 right here are fantastic to start with. Again, whether you're painting for an army, painting for display, even a bust, I highly recommend when you sit down at the table or when you're really excited about a sculpt, ask these 4 questions before you begin. I got a bit of an example of storytelling that I did myself. So, before I sat down to paint this sculpt in particular, I asked these 4 questions. Who is the character? What are they doing? And what world are they in? Is it day or night? So, who is this character? Whenever I look at this guy, he's definitely a zombie orc. I can definitely like the sculpt really pushes that storytelling for me. So why not lean into that? So it's this character in particular I'm viewing as a zombie orc. Perhaps maybe something like what are they doing? My personal view of this model right here. What are they doing? I like to paint this, or I'm thinking that this character just arose, like just became a zombie, brand spanking new. Probably still has a little bit of blood in under its skin, and so he's a very very fresh zombie. What world are they in? I painted this guy to be, or I'm thinking this guy should be a little bit in the cold realm. We often see orcs being maybe green or orange or red in that kind of area. That always feels warm to me, and I'll get into that here in a bit. But I really wanted this one to be cold. I kind of wanted to set him kind of um, in a cold temperature world. Is it day or night? I think that this would be a good idea to paint this at night. The reason being is that it's a zombie. Perhaps the zombie apocalypse just happened. It's fresh at night. He just got bit and now he's raising up. I think that would be a really great story to tell. Okay, now that I've got my questions answered, who's this character? Obviously a zombie orc. What are they doing? Just woke up from being bit and ready to go eat some brains. What world are they in? Kind of like a cold temperature world. Maybe not like super duper tundra, but definitely not a desert. Is it day or night? I chose nighttime. I think night would be a really great view on this character. Now, once I have those questions answered, now I can support those questions by choosing what lighting style best helps my story, as well as what color temperature fits the mood, and how can I add little tiny narrative details. So what do I mean by all 3 of these? I'll give you guys a second to read these over again. I'll read them one more time. What lighting style best helps my story? What color temperature fits the mood? And how can I add narrative details to push the storytelling? Let's break down all 3 of these one by one, and then we'll check back on that zombie orc that I painted. Okay, let's start off with lighting. Each one of these pieces that I have on screen, I have attached their artists. Each one of the artists that we see today are some of my heroes whenever it comes to miniature painting and art in general. So I highly recommend, if you don't already have or are following these individuals, I put their Instagram tags along with their names so that way you can reference them later. All right, let's talk about lighting. It's a portion of ambience and mood. It's how we can help tell this story a little bit more. I like to break down lighting in two simple categories. These are very generalized categories, I understand that, but these are two simple categories. We have dramatic on the left and soft on the right. Dramatic can be broken down into two main things: high contrast and strong directional lighting, which includes object source lighting, also known as OSL, cast shadows, and rim lights. If we take a look at Kiro's work here on this vampire, it's one of my favorite pieces he's done. You can see the obvious directional lighting over here in the top left-hand portion of the forehead. You can see all of the objects on this model. All of the lighting is fitting towards that direction. It's extremely dramatic by having the spotlight feature on the face. Then we have the Terminator shadow that differentiates the direction of light, or this direct light, and our object source lighting down here at the bottom. So this is extremely dramatic. This is probably my favorite form of painting. You'll probably see in some of my work on Instagram that I often paint dramatic lighting. I just think it's very appealing to the eye, and it really tells a story pretty quickly. Next up is this lovely Golden Demon winning Elrond by Andy Wardle. And this is soft lighting. And I've kind of broken down soft lighting. Again, these are generalized terms, but I've broken down soft lighting into three different sections: lower contrast, diffused light, and reduction in shadows, which kind of goes into the lower contrast. But let's break this down a little bit further. So lower contrast and reduction in shadows. If you notice here on the left-hand side, Kiro's work, we have very strong highlights and very deep shadows. Extremely deep shadows. It's almost borderline black on this side of this vampire's face. But if I go over here on the right-hand side, we're not seeing that distinct or that degree of shadows within this piece. So think of this as like an Elrond here is being lit by the sun, and the environment is bouncing that light up into him at the same time. So we're really not going to see very distinct contrast and shadows. Now, definitely there's contrast on this. I'm not saying that there's none, but there's definitely not as extreme of lighting contrast that you see next to it. So we see a reduction in shadows, like this right here seems to be one of the darkest shadows on this portion of the horse right here, outside of this one right here, but in the very top where this lighting is being seen. So we can kind of see it is semi-directional. Like if you look at the hair right here, the shine is shining this direction, which means the light's coming in from here. But overall, I can see most details of everything on this model. Like everything is being lit. It's a really great piece. I haven't seen it in hand, but I am dying to see it in hand. It is absolutely gorgeous. But I like to think of this as diffused light or cinematic light. Like if you are ever watching maybe a superhero movie and they're out in the day, you see that almost all of their persons is being lit. Like whenever they come out in their costume for the first time, that's because the actual people who create the costumes worked really hard, and we deserve to see it, you know? So that's kind of how I like to view this, as a bit of a diffused light across the entire model. Once we've got our lighting decided, whether we want to do dramatic or soft, we then go into color temperature. Again, I'm making extreme generalizations so that way we can understand it from a simple mindset of making decisions to build stories quickly. So I've broken it down into warm tones and cold tones. Warm tones, as you can see by Arnau's work over here on the left-hand side, this Sanguinius is so stinking cool. At least I think that's Sanguinius. You guys tell me in chat. I don't remember. But we got warm tones here on the left, which can be considered red, orange, and yellows. Why do we call them warm tones? Because we're humans and we have to put meaning to things. That's it. It's just color theory, and by that, it is a theory. It's not law. There is nothing that says that it has to be this in order to be that. It is just a theory. So warm tones include reds, oranges, and yellows. They evoke warmth, comfort, energy, and intimacy, often associated with sunlight, fire, and heat. So we're associating emotions to warm tones, which kind of help provoke those emotions, like I was mentioning, but also help tell the story. So for this one in Arnau's piece, I'm definitely seeing the Sanguinius character potentially just or sitting in his homeland on a bright, fiery day. He maybe just got done with war and is just sitting down contemplating what he just conquered potentially. That's kind of what I'm getting out of this story. But Arnau's work is fantastic. You should definitely follow him. Next up is cold tones. Cool colors include blues, greens, and violets. Some of these emotions that we evoke are calm, distance, melancholy, and serenity. We like to associate this with water, sky, snow, and shadows. All those cool temperatures. We're in winter right now, so definitely if you're painting something outside, you'd likely use more and more cold tones. This piece is fantastic. I saw the Eric Swinson, one of the teachers I follow often. I got to see this work and how he decided this storytelling. He decided to choose it from a piece. I'm not sure if it's a Magic the Gathering painter. I don't remember what the artist he chose it from was, but was kind of just really interested in this piece and decided to have a miniature manufactured based off of it. But he definitely goes into in the book, in Eric Swenson's book, about why he chose the colors that he chose, and often it was to help build the story of we're in a dark, damp space, and it is definitely a Spider Queen that is not someone who wants to be in the sun. And if you know a lot about D&D culture, you'll see a lot of Spider Queens and the undergrowth. I forgot what that area is where the spider people live. They often don't receive a lot of sunlight. So even in the you'll see the lighting right here. It may be warm in some areas, but the overall lighting in this piece is cool. Got cold tones. I feel a lot of despair. Yes, the Underdark. Thank you so much, Snake. I appreciate that. The Underdark, as in its name, does not receive a lot of light. But I'd be very interested to see what you guys thought about this piece and the emotions that you get out of it. But a portion of this class towards the end, we're going to go through every single piece and talk about what this evokes from us, what style of lighting they have, color temperature, so on and so forth. Okay, so we talked about lighting, whether it's dramatic or soft. We moved on to color temperature, warm tones provoking comfort, energy, and intimacy, cold tones evoking distance, melancholy, and serenity. Next and last will be narrative details. Narrative details are extra little tidbits that may not be sculpted that you can add to your story to help build it further and further. Really reinforcing what you want the viewer to feel and understand what's going on. You can first start off with scenery. This enhances the setting of the characters in. So adding more and more things like building, you'll see this a lot in diorama work, where we're putting in little tiny pieces to be able to tell that story further. So using basic material to sell the character's environment and lighting. And make sure, always, I know that we do this in our armies. I know that we do this in our display pieces. But if you are going to be putting grass tufts and you are going to be laying down snow, paint the grass tufts and the snows to fit your lighting styles. whether it's dramatic, whether it's soft. Make sure you're choosing the color temperatures to match the rest of the model. I often see, including myself whenever I first started, you'll see a lot of grass tufts that aren't painted, and they take you completely out of the story that you're trying to tell. It's a pretty obvious jarring effect, especially snow. When a lot of people paint or lay down snow on their miniatures, or especially on their display pieces, it's just a white clump, but yet you'll see the model have values to it. You'll see a lighting direction. So if you're going to be using tufts, if you're going to be using snow, just make sure that you're painting it to match the values, match the lighting of your model. But this piece right here just won Best in Show at Nova Capital Palette in America in 2025. It's by Chris Schur. I love this guy. If you truly want to learn more and more about storytelling, I cannot recommend his book enough. I just finished it last night, and it is just absolutely spectacular. He builds these incredible scenes from top to bottom. Like every single piece of this is either something he found in a bits box, like his local Michael's craft store, or sculpted it himself. It's really, really impressive work, even to the smallest minutia. Let me zoom in so you guys can kind of see some of the narrative details that he's added to this piece. You see down here the pieces of chalk. That's fantastic. The grease spots that are on the ground. You see how the lighting matches everything that's going on, so all of these non-metallic pieces all have the same lighting. It's a bit on the dramatic side, and the reason I say that is because this is a theatrical lighting style, which means that we are putting a direct spotlight on what's most important, which is the dwarf engineer and their creation. But if you look over here, the cracks on the wall, the stripes in the cord to signify which cord it is, the little tiny robots down at the bottom. Now if I scroll up to the top, he didn't need to do this, right? There was no point for him to create this because what's already happening down below the ceiling already looks fantastic. But he went a step further in his scenery to continue telling the story of this dwarf engineer creates robots upon robots, and maybe even is a robot repair. I think that's actually the name of this, is robot repair, something like that. But she has little tiny robots that go and fix the tops and bottoms of everything that may or may not be working. See, this is the extra mile in scenery to really continue telling your story. I am just truly obsessed with this piece, if you can't tell by how excited I am to talk about it. All right, let me zoom out. That's scenery. Chris Schur, fantastic artist. Let's talk about special effects. So special effects, you'll see this often with when it comes to like tattoos. Oops, sorry. Let me zoom back in. All right, go away now. See if I knew how to work these things. All right. We've got special effects. These are small details that help hint the story of the character. So you'll see a lot of busts with tattoos, maybe even blood. This sculpt in particular does not have tattoos built into it, nor does it have this blood. It does. I think it does have a missing tooth and a more swollen eye, but nonetheless, like look at the sweat beads that he painted in, the special effects of the sweat beads. Let me zoom in a little bit further if you're not on your phone. See those sweat beads? We even have still a hint of blood. We have the painting of the bruise itself. Yes, the sculpt does have a swollen eye, but we're just reinforcing it with that discolorization. We've got a scratch. That's not on the sculpt. Down here, Mark Maskelin's also painted tattoos. Boy, do they look realistic, don't they? But you can even see the beads of sweat that he's painted. See the one that's going straight through the tattoo? We'll look over here. We even have discolorization of the gloves to signify like sweat that may have come off from smacking your opponent. And then we even have more tattoos up and down the arm. See, it's those tiny little things, maybe not tiny, but it's those decisions that you'll see these master artists create to continue to help tell their story. Narrative details. They are very, very important tools. Okay, just to reiterate what we've gone over so far. We've gone over lighting. We have dramatic, and then we also have soft lighting. We have color temperatures, warm and cold. And we have narrative details, such as scenery and special effects. Now let's check back in on that orc character that we had in mind and how I made the decisions I made. So I chose that spotlight style of lighting, which is way more dramatic, and I wanted the viewer to focus on the face, on the very front of the face. I thought everything that was happening behind the face, sure, it's helping, it's a bit of narrative detail if you want, but I still can harness narrative details in the face itself. So I wanted to target the spotlight effect on the front of the face. So I chose a dramatic style of lighting. Then I chose a cooler tone, almost white tone, for the color temperature, because he's walking through at nighttime. We're not going to see yellows in the actual light. It's more moonlight, so it's cooler, closer to white tones. And narrative details that I brought to this piece were glowing eyes. That kind of gives it the idea of this fantasy, non-realistic. He already looks fantasy and non-realistic. Just reiterating that fact with glowing eyes to make him seem a little bit more scary. And then also, I don't think I took the best photos of this, but if you take a look down here at the bottom of the jaw, let me zoom in. Nope, that's not how you zoom in. This is how you zoom in. You'll see over here how shiny that is right here. You see how shiny it is. Obviously, I painted shine that's on there. Some specular highlighting, but there's an extra bit of shine. Ruben Martinez, welcome to chat, buddy. Glad to have you here. This extra little bit that I've added to the jaw and the lips, that's just clear resin because I wanted to have the feel of this guy drooling a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could even extend it further. Like I could come back with this clear resin and pour it down just like that. Glowing eyes were the only things distinguishing him from my downstairs neighbor. Sorry, Martin. You may be a zombie soon, just to let you know. All right, let me zoom back out. But yeah, these are the narrative details I set down before I painted. Now, with this piece in particular, it's not my greatest blending that you've ever seen. I like to be a little bit more on the painterly side, purposeful brushstrokes, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, we have that dramatic lighting. We chose cooler temperatures, and we added in narrative details, especially around the special effects. Cool. That's how we tell a story. Wasn't that awesome? That was pretty cool, right? Top to bottom. We use generic terms. Different ways to tell a story are lighting, color temperatures, and narrative details. So, with that in mind, with those three things, let's go through some of the masters that are out there and try to understand what story that they are trying to create. Obviously, I am not these artists, but I am a viewer of their art. And I'm going to tell you what I think I see. And I would love for you guys to do the very same thing. So the chat is open. You're more than welcome to type. We'll spend at least 5 minutes on each one of the slides talking about the very top to bottom of these pieces, because the reason why we are doing this is to help train your observation skills. I think that's what delineates a master painter versus a beginner painter, is being able to experience and observate, make observations of what's happening around you and what you see, and paint that. So, Let's go to the first piece here. This is by far, I think, one of my favorite pieces I've ever seen in the miniature world. It is a piece by Eric Swinson, and it is fantastic. Metals would classify gold equals warm, silver equals cool colors. Oftentimes, you could see gold as a cold color too. If you ever get a chance, there are some gold alloys. It may not have all gold alloy. It could be mixed with other metals. But if you take it out on a cold day, you can see kind of greenish tinges to the gold. So gold can still be a cold, but it's relative what's happening. So you can't just have a cold. Let me go back a slide so I can show you. So this is we can all agree that this is a cold character, right? There's cold temperatures that we have here. If he had a gold chain around his neck, I would not be painting it in bright yellows because that's not the environment that he's in. Color theory is all in relativity of what is happening and what story that you're creating. So since this is a cold character, and if he had a cold chain, I'd be painting maybe a little bit more darker greens than darker browns to perpetuate a gold chain in this dark mood or cold mood. Great question though. Let me go to the next slide. Here it is. Okay. So, I'm going to give you guys some time. Just give you guys a couple seconds. I want you to look at this character. This is Bloodhoof from World of Warcraft. Thunderhoof? Bloodhoof? You tell me, guys. I'm terrible with names today. Bane Bloodhoof. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, it looks exactly like the art, right? It's fantastic, Snake. Okay. I've got 3 questions to ask you guys. 1, what do you guys think the color temperature is? 2, what do you think the lighting is? 3, what narrative details are you seeing here that help tell this story? I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. But remember, I want you guys to be thinking, what color temperatures do you see? What style of lighting do you see? And what are some narrative details? I'm going to zoom in so you guys can get a better look. Zoom out just a little so you can see the bottom. Okay, we got a couple answers coming in. Nice mix of warm light and cold shadows. Ruben says it's warm, golden light, looks like sunrise. Snake says, yeah, I agree, sunrise. I think I'm leaning to you guys, yeah. Warm light, maybe during golden hour. I think it's good. I think I'm agreeing with you guys. That's definitely what I'm viewing here. Is perchance, perhaps, that Bane is coming out on the steeps of Thunderbluff, to get the other Tauren into action. Cool light on the back, maybe from the hammer, yeah. So I think the color temperatures that we're seeing here, we're definitely seeing warm. The overall experience that we see here is warm. I agree that this could be sunrise. It could be maybe not dusk. I think the only reason I say maybe not dusk is we'd potentially see more pinks in what's going on here. But again, I could be wrong. But I would definitely think that we'd see a little bit more pinks. It's extremely heroic. I agree with that, Ruben. And then over here on the right-hand side, in order to help continue telling the story, perhaps he's coming out of the nighttime and coming into the morning to get his soldiers into battle, to get ready for the Horde, you know? Lighting is pretty dramatic. We have a very hard directional light. You can even see it in the stonework here. Look, painted tufts. Painted tufts. Fantastic. Even down here are painted tufts. But we have a secondary light, potentially nighttime, maybe another magical source that's around him. But nonetheless, we have that dramatic lighting that's coming in. The narrative details that we see here, the tufts. The tufts really help tell this story a lot more than I think we give it, we give it on first initial glance. Because all of this is sculpted down here, and then he added these tufts. This, to me, already tells me that he's in Thunder Bluff, that he is in his homeland, because that's definitely what looks like in Tauren homeland. These tiny little flowers to go with. Other narrative details, tattoos. So we know this is I mean, we could tell on first glance, right, who the character was, but this just sells it even more. I mean, Eric just basically took a 2D piece and made it 3D. Let's be real. The man's fantastic. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next one. No, that's not how you go next. Next. This is a piece by Magnus. Magnus, I apologize. I don't know your last name or how to pronounce your last name. But Magnus's works are always really amazing to see on Instagram. This is not necessarily a trick one, but I would love to see what you guys think of color temperature here. So what do we see here via color temperature? What's the lighting that's telling the story here? What are some narrative details that we're seeing? Again, I'm going to zoom in for you guys so you can see. Whoa, too far. I'm definitely getting a cooler temperature vibe. What about you guys? Because I'm seeing a lot of blues and greens that we see here. Cooler kind of green. I agree, Snake. The lighting is maybe less on the dramatic side, more on the soft side. Ambient lighting or natural. Can't remember the term. Yeah, soft lighting. Definitely ambient. I agree. Very cool lighting. Diffused. There you go. Yep, I agree. It's very diffused from above. The reason why we say diffused is because every little piece that we see here has some side of lighting and visibility to it. Doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, if you do dramatic lighting, then the back of your model is not going to be lit. That's not necessarily the case. But with diffuse light, we have kind of the same, almost the same in contrast, or sorry, in value to be able to see the entirety of the model. Feels like it's cooling, like life leaving the body. I agree with that. Light from heaven being called to Valhalla. Ruben, you're so correct, man. Absolutely correct. All right, let's talk about narrative details. I agree with you guys. Color temperature is cool. We're leaning in on the greens. We're leaning in on those light blues. The lighting is diffused. We can see the entirety of what's going on here. Nothing's not visible to our eyes. And then narrative details, or let me go back on that lighting. Yes, everything is visible. It's diffused, but the vastness and contrast is not as extreme. The contrast in values is a lot smaller than dramatic lighting. Very chromatic, I agree. Yeah, she is chromatic. She does look like a spirit. Good thing she is. Narrative details. Okay, let's talk about narrative details. So I know the sculpt just a little bit. I don't know it exactly, but I do know that there are some things that the artist Magnus has added to bring out narrative details. For example, what's the fatal wounds that we see here? Definitely a neck cut. That seems pretty fatal to me. We also see a femoral artery potentially getting cut right here. I think we'd see a little bit more blood if it was femoral, but you never know. We also have blood down here from the sword. The sword is broken. That's a bit of a narrative detail. We were just in battle. He was shot at. Take a look at these arrows here. And we got blood on his pauldron. Great narrative details. Tells me exactly what's going on. This is a warrior that was in battle, but ready to go to Valhalla. Great piece, Magnus. All right, let's do the next slide. Okay, this was a trick one, guys. I'm throwing you guys a 2D piece. This is Richelieu on the seawall of La Rochelle. Guys, I'm not French, I don't know. By Henry Paul Mott. This is probably one of my favorite oil paintings of all time. I could stare at this piece for so long. I could talk about this piece for hours. But we're going to simplify it, and we have little time, so let's simplify it within 2-3 minutes. Okay, what color temperatures are we seeing here, guys? What lighting are we seeing here? What are some narrative details that help you understand this story? There's a ton. There's no wrong answers. There are a ton of narrative details. The lighting, it's a bit of a tricky one, but I think you guys got it. And then the color temperature. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. And if you guys know how to pronounce this, send me a voice message on Discord after this telling me how it goes, how to pronounce this. Okay, so I'm seeing cold temperatures. This is definitely a cold feeling. I think the artist Henry. Oops, sorry. Try this again. I think the artist really wanted us to feel the weight of war. Not the passion of war, but the weight of war through cold tones. You can see the red is even a cooler temperature of red. The lighting, the highlights that are in the red right here are colder highlights. Even the red back here is starting to mix with some of the greens, making it a little bit more gray, because red and green are what? Complementaries. We have green in the ocean, the sky is green. Even the explosions in the back are not passionate. They're not. The best way I can describe this is the emotion behind this explosion is not passion. I think it's just the weightiness of what's about to happen. The lighting is a bit diffused, so we see everything. Yep, Ruben, you're right. It is diffused. It's overcast. So the contrast, the value contrasts aren't massive leaps between the two. Depending on local color, for example, this robe obviously is a vast difference of contrast between the red here, but the local color of this robe is black, and it does not go up to a really bright gray. It still stays within a very small window of value contrast. There's just so many things about this that is incredible. So, all right, narrative details before we leave. See the soup that spilled? Definitely a soldier getting to station or getting to post really quickly, unable to finish their food. And during this time, food is very important. It's not as easy for us to get, or not as easy for them to get that we get now. So food was spilled. I love the reflections off of the wet right here, so we know that we're next to the sea. We got a raging sea. It's all splashing here on the deck, so it's very obvious that we are in a wet time here. Other narrative details, the explosions in the back, so we know it's war. The breaking of these things, showing that there has already been turmoil so far. And you see men going off to war, which is just a bit of an extra. Incredible oil piece. If you ever get a chance, it's in Richelieu, which I think is a city in France. I was doing a little bit of research. I can't remember where it is, but I know it's in France. It's in France. Dramatic in a sense of Richelieu is standing out a lot versus a reality dull background. I agree, Martin. It is dramatic because Richelieu, the Catholic individual here, is definitely, it's there to meet you. And if you see the rule of thirds, he is directly center. And if you notice, everything is pointing to him. The guard is pointing to him. The masts are pointing, not masts, the spikes are pointing to him. Even this has the same direction. The waves are going towards him. Everything makes you meet back to this character. That's why I love this piece. Again, I could talk about this thing for hours, but let's move on. We'll zoom out. Boom. Go to the next one. All right, let's take something from Lucas Armstrong. He is fantastic. What a great addition to Squidmar many years ago. But nonetheless, he is fantastic at being able to create a story really quickly. And I think what he did with the Dark Angels here, he wanted to make them look more like Crusaders. So if you guys know GW models, this is Lionel Johnson. He took Lionel Johnson and made it his own. He decided, oh well, monks and crusaders should be bald, and then they should have their crusader symbols all across them. So usually we see this model in all green with long blonde hair. That's kind of what we see for Lionel Johnson. But Lucas decided that he would shave down the hair and really tell his story. So let's talk about color temperature, lighting, and narrative details. I already gave you a couple of narrative details. But let's do color temperature. What are you guys thinking? Are you thinking warm or are you thinking cool? And while you guys are thinking that, think about lighting as well. I'm going to vote that this is more on the warm side. We've got candles in the back that's flame. We got bright, bright gold this time. Kind of harking back on the question earlier: is cold always warm? Sorry, is gold always warm metal? No, not necessarily. In this case, it is because it's relative of what this lighting is doing. I really like the lighting style. I'm going to say that this is more on the dramatic style, but I can also agree that it is a bit diffused. So I think it is a little bit more on the dramatic style of lighting because we have an object source lighting in the back. You can see it hitting on the back of his shoulder. But we are a little bit more diffused because if we see the rocks here, we could see the contrast. We could see small dips in contrast. Hey, Gilded Brush, glad to see you. Good to see you in chat, my friend. But we also see a lot of these details in the back. Again, the contrast isn't extreme. So I still think that it is hinting on dramatic, but also still soft at the same time. Narrative details included, again, shaving the head of Lionel Johnson to portray more of a monkey vibe. Not like the animal monk, but a monk. And then we added some different freehand into the shoulder to really go about the Knights Templar style. Great piece, Lucas. If you're not following him, give him a follow right here. Next up. I think this is the last one. Let me double check my notes. Let's see here. Nope, we got one more after this. Okay. Lucas, I'm so sorry I don't remember your last name. I know you work with Phoenix Miniatures, or you are Phoenix Miniatures. I can't ever really remember which one. But he's been painting busts every single day of 2026 so far. Literally every day he's painting a bust. And if you want a masterclass in not only painting but storytelling, follow him. Follow him on Instagram this very moment. And I want you to see all of the things that he paints every single day. This is about 2 or 3 days ago in January. I have this bust. And this bust does not come with this butterfly. So this is a narrative detail that Lucas has added to this piece. Including with this narrative detail is the eyes. Look at the eyes. They seem enraged, but also just obsessed with this butterfly. It's so fantastic. This is such an incredible bust. He did an amazing job with this. So yeah, let's talk color temperature, lighting. I always go to narrative detail first, but let's talk color temperature and lighting. Color temperature. Chat says, def a warm feel. Even a steel has a warm hue. I agree. I think that we are definitely dealing with warm lighting here. We could see it in the yellows right here. Even though we're still working with desaturated tones, we see yellows and reds and greens. Bright, bright greens. Even in the steel, as you mentioned, warm tones. Gorgeous, gorgeous NMM. Lighting style, what do you guys think? Do you think it's dramatic? Or do you think it's diffused? I've got an opinion on this one, but I want to see what chat says. I love the dirty scarf too. Oh, it's fantastic. Dramatic. Yeah, I agree, chat. Dramatic is definitely what I would choose here. I think the reason I say that is, sure, NMM should always have the specular highlight of where the light is going, but we are spotlighting here to the face. Notice how everything's moving towards this direction. The light is just focused specifically right here. If this were more diffused, we'd see brighter values in the back of the pauldron here, even back here. Some brighter values just overall, because it would be a little bit more in the zenith, right? So coming up from top. But this right here is definitely dramatic. We're spotlighting this portion of the bust. We probably could have gotten a little bit higher. No, I'm not going to critique. But Lucas, this is a really phenomenal piece. Like, truly fantastic. No notes. Color temperature warm, lighting dramatic, narrative details the butterfly and the eyes perpetuating that butterfly, as well as the dirty cloth and just the dirty NMM in general. This could be like, could have done chrome. If I'm not sure I would choose it, but you could have, and that would have been a narrative detail. But this dirty steel, it's fantastic. All right, last but not least, I feel like this is also a bit of a trick one. Or at least whenever I sat down and studied it, I feel like it's a little bit of a trick one. So let's start with color temperature, lighting, and narrative details. Chat, what are you thinking? I'm thinking we have cooler temperatures. We have cooler tones here in the metal because we're reflecting off the snow. But we even have cooler tones up here. The only thing that's warm is coming from the light. So we have a combination of cool and warm. The lighting style, I'm going to say it's a little bit on the diffuse side. Even though, yes, we do have an OSL at the top, we are definitely seeing every little detail top to bottom. Narrative details include these little, I think I know this piece. I'm not sure if these are included or not. But nonetheless, these little Christmas ornaments at the bottom, fantastic. But even in the sculpt itself, like the narrative details within the sculpt are great. The painting narrative details, these little divots that are going on right here, fantastic. This is Marko Milodovic from Craft World. Wonderful painter. All right, guys, let's move on to the last few slides. And that's really just keep learning. I have a couple of books that I would highly recommend for you guys. Color and Light by James Gurney. It's a really great book on how to understand how light affects things. We are painters, and we're basically painting light. So give that a check. The Art of Eric Swinson, Roman Lapat, Chris Schur, Sam. Just get them all. All of them. Get all of them. They're great. Can't recommend them enough. If you have the opportunity, I recommend really training your observation skills by analyzing Eric Swinson's work, Andy Wardle, Arnel Lazaro, Mark Masklins, Alfonso Banchi-Geraldes, Lucas Holmstrom, even Emil. Highly recommend checking them out. Last but not least, train your observation. We did it today, but continue doing it. That's what really helps tell your story more and more, is by taking your observations and putting them onto canvas or onto 3D models. Thank you guys so much for attending today. I really appreciate your attentiveness in class. I really appreciate you guys going along with me. I have a link to my class. I'll put it in chat there. You can also scan it, the QR code there. It'll take you directly to my class. So that way you can take it back and review it anytime you want. I appreciate your time, guys. Continue watching. We got another class right after this. We have, let's see here. I think it's weathering. Yeah, after this class, Libzenth will teach how to weather to perfection. So keep watching. I'm very excited for you guys to see it. All that you saw here today will be in the YouTube channel for you guys to watch at a later time, whenever you want. Thanks, guys.